All right, we are live. I'm going to be reading The Clouds by Aristophanes, part 2. Made it almost halfway, I think, last night. By the way, I got a new hoodie today, or came in the mail. History has its eyes on you. Ooh. I like the music from Hamilton, so here we are. All right, Aristophanes, The Clouds. I did a little bit more research into this, just to kind of understand kind of the story arc a little bit better, because I froze. Okay. I'm going to try to understand the story arc a little bit better. That's why I still like reading the summaries or hearing other people summarize the book, especially when it's kind of like a lot of the phrasing's tough. So sometimes I don't really catch what's important. I highly suggest anybody watching do the same thing. Also, I'm not sure how I was pronouncing the words last night. Strepsiades, I think, was correct. Pheidippides is going to be how I pronounce his son's name, who didn't go with him to the learning or to the school. We've got Socrates talking with Strepsiades here. Okay, so we're leaving the Frontisterion, which I believe is the learning school, or like the school. It's just another word for school, I believe. All right, so Socrates comes out of the Frontisterion, where he has been endeavoring to teach Strepsiades. Socrates says, "Never by chaos, air, and respiration, never, no, never have I seen a clown so helpless and forgetful and absurd. Why, if he learns a quirk or two, he can clean, forgets them ere he has learnt them, all the same. I'll call him out of doors here to the light. Take up your bed, Strepsiades, and come." Strepsiades says, "By Zeus, I can't. The bugs make such resistance." Socrates says, "Make haste. There, throw it down and listen." Strepsiades, entering with the bed, says, "Well?" Socrates says, "Attend to me. What shall I teach you first that you've not learned before? Which will you have, measures or rhythms or the right use of words?" Strepsiades says, "Oh, measures to be sure, for very lately a grocer swindled me of full 3 pints." Socrates says, "I don't mean that, but which do you like the best? Of all the measures, 6 feet or 8 feet? Strepsiades says, "Well, I like nothing better than the yard." Socrates says, "Fool, don't talk nonsense." So Strepsiades says, "What will you bet me now that 2 yards don't exactly make 6 feet? Socrates says, "Consume you! What an ignorant clown you are! Still, perhaps you could learn tunes more easily." Strepsiades says, "But will tunes help me repair my fortunes?" Socrates says, "They'll help you behave in company, and if you can tell which kind of tune is best for the sword dance, which for the finger music." Strepsiades says, "For fingers, aye, but I know that." Socrates says, "Say on then." Strepsiades says, What is it but this finger, though before, ere this was grown, I used to play with that?" Socrates, insufferable dolt." Strepsiades says, "Well bet, you goose. I don't want to learn this." It's funny because we still say silly goose today. That's hilarious. Socrates says, "What do you want then?" Strepsiades says, "Teach me the logic. Teach me the unjust logic." That's what he's at the school for, is to learn the unjust logic. And remember, Pheidippides didn't want to learn the unjust logic, so he didn't follow his father to Socrates. All right, so Socrates says, "But you must learn some other matters first, as what are males among the quadrupeds." Strepsiades says, "I should be mad indeed not to know that. The ram, the bull, the goat, the dog, the fowl." Socrates says, "Ah, there you are. There's a mistake at once. You call the male and female fowl the same." Let's see. Strepsiades says, "How? Tell me how." Socrates says, "Why, fowl and fowl, of course." Strepsiades says, "That's true enough. What then shall I say in the future?" Socrates says, "Call one a fowless and the other a fowl." Strepsiades says, "A fowless? Good. Bravo, bravo, Bayer. Now for that one bright piece of information, I'll give you a barley bumper on your trough." Socrates says, "Look there, a fresh mistake. You called it a trough. Masculine when it's feminine." Strepsiades says, "How, pray? How did I make it masculine?" Socrates says, "Why, trough, just like Cleonymus." Strepsiades says, I don't quite catch it." Socrates says, "Why, trough, Cleonymus, both masculine." "Ah, but Cleonymus has got no trough. His bread is kneaded in a rounded mortar. Still, what must I say in the future?" Socrates says, "What? Why, call it a trophus, female, just as one says an actress." "A trophus, female? That's the way to call it." "Oh, trophus then, and Miss Cleonymus." Socrates says, "Still you must learn some more about these names. Which are the names of men and which of women?" "Oh, I know which are women." "Well, repeat some." Demetria, Clytogora, Philina. Socrates says, now tell me some men's names. Oh, yes, 1,000. Philon, Melesius, Amenius. Socrates says, hold, I say men's names. These are women's names. Strepsiades says, no, they are men's. Socrates says, no, they are not men's, for how would you address Anemius if you met him? How? Somehow thus. Hear, Amenia. Amenia, a woman's name, you see. Strepsiades says, and rightly too, a sneak who shirks all service. But all know this, let's pass to something else. Socrates says, well then, you get into the bed. Strepsiades says, and then? Socrates says, think about your own affairs. Excogitate your own affairs. Excogitate about your own affairs. I guess that means speak aloud, think about your own affairs. Strepsiades says, not there, I do beseech, not there. At least let me excogitate on the bare ground. Socrates says, there's no way but this. Oh, luckless me, how shall I suffer from the bugs today? Socrates says, now then, survey in every way with airy judgment sharp and quick, wrapping thoughts around you thick, and if so be in one you stick, never stop to toil and bother, lightly leap, to another, far away be balmy sleep. Strepsiades says, the chorus of the cloud says, what's the matter? Where's the pain? Strepsiades says, friends, I'm dying from the bed. Out creep bugbears scantily fed, and my ribs they bite in twain, and my lifeblood and my lifeblood out they suck, and my manhood off they pluck, and my loins they dig and drain, and I'm dying once again. The chorus says, oh, take not the smart so deeply to heart. Strepsiades says, why? What can I do? Vanished my skin so ruddy of hue, vanished my lifeblood, vanished my shoe. Vanished my purse, and what is still worse, as I hummed an old tune till my watch should be past, I had very near vanished myself at the last. There we go. Socrates says, hello there, what are you pondering? Or are you pondering? Strepsiades says, yes, to be sure. Socrates, and what have your ponderings come to? Strepsiades, whether these bugs will leave a bit of me. Socrates says, consume you, wretch. Strepsiades says, faith, I'm consumed already. Socrates says, come, don't flinch, pull up the clothes again. Search out and catch some very subtle dodge to fleece your creditors. Strepsiades says, oh me, how can I fleece anyone with all these fleeces on me? He puts his head under the clothes, under the cloths. Socrates says, come, let me peep a moment what he's doing. Hey, he's asleep. Strepsiades says, no fear of that. Socrates says, caught anything? Strepsiades says, no, nothing. Socrates, surely something. Strepsiades, well, I had something in my hand, I'll own. Socrates says, pull up the clothes again and go on pondering. Strepsiades says, on what? Now please do tell me, Socrates. Socrates says, what is it that you want? First tell me that. Strepsiades says, you have heard a million times what 'tis I want. My debts, I want to shirk my debts. Socrates says, come, pull up the clothes, refine your thoughts. With subtle wit, look at the case on all sides, mind you divide correctly. Strepsiades says, oh me. Socrates says, hush, if you meet with any difficulty, leave it a moment, then return again to the same thought, then lift and weigh it well. Strepsiades says, oh, here, dear Socrates. Socrates says, well, my old friend? Strepsiades says, I found a notion how to shirk my debts. Well, then propound it. What do you think of this? Suppose I hire some grand Thessalian witch to conjure down the moon, and then I take it and clap it into some round helmet box and keep it fast there like a looking glass. Socrates says, but what's the use of that? Strepsiades says, the use, quoth, why, if the moon should never rise again, I'd never pay 1 farthing. No, why not? Why don't we pay our interest by the month? Socrates says, good. Now I'll proffer you another problem. Suppose an action, damages 5 talents. Now tell me how you can evade that same. Strepsiades says, how? Can't say at all, but I'll go seek. Socrates says, don't wrap your mind forever around yourself, but let your thoughts range freely through the air, like chafers through a thread about their feet. Strepsiades says, I found a bright evasion of the actions. Confess yourself, 'tis glorious. Socrates says, what is it? Strepsiades says, I say, haven't you seen in druggists' shops that splendidly transparent stone by which they kindle fire? Socrates says, the burning glass? Strepsiades says, that's it. Well then, I'd get me one of these, and as a clerk was entering down my case, I'd stand like this some distance toward the sun and burn out every line. Socrates says, by the three graces, a clever dodge. Strepsiades says, oh me, how pleased I am to have a debt like that clean blotted out. Socrates says, come then, make haste and snap up this. Strepsiades says, well, what? Socrates says, how to prevent an adversary's suit. Supposing you were sure to lose it, tell me. Strepsiades says, oh, nothing easier. How, pray? Why thus, while there was yet one trial intervening, ere mine was cited, I'd go hang myself. Socrates says, absurd. Strepsiades says, no, by the gods, it isn't, though. They could not prosecute me were I dead. Socrates says, nonsense, be off. I'll try no more to teach you. Strepsiades says, why not? Do please now. Please do, Socrates. Socrates says, why, you forget all that you learned directly. Come, say what you learned first. There's a chance for you. Strepsiades say, what was first? Dear me, whatever was it? Whatever's that which we need barley in. Bless us, what was it? Socrates says, be off and feed the crows, you most forgetful, most absurd old dolt. Strepsiades says, oh me, what will become of me, poor wretch? I'm clean undone. I haven't learned to speak. Oh, gracious clouds, now do advise me something. The clouds say, our counsel, ancient friend, is simply this, to send your son, if you have one at home, and let him learn this wisdom in your stead. So Strepsiades says, yes, I have a son, quite a fine gentleman, but he won't learn. So what am I to do? Theochorus says, what? Is he master? Strepsiades says, well, he's strong and vigorous, and he's got some of the Coursera blood within him. Still, I'll go for him, and if he won't come, by all the gods, I'll turn him out of doors. Go in one moment, I'll be back directly. Socrates exits the Frontisterion, I guess the learning place, right? The learnery, the whatever it's called, the place where they hold classes. And Strepsiades gets to his house. The chorus says, dost thou not see how bounteous we, our favors free, will shower upon you, since whatsoever your will prepare, this dupe will do. But now that you have dazzled and elated, so your man, make haste and seize whatever you please, as quickly as you can. For cases such as these, my friend, are very prone to change and bend. Oh, so cases like this are prone to change and bend. Foreshadowing, perhaps. Enter Strepsiades and Pheidippides. Strepsiades says, get out, you shan't stop here, so help me mist. Be off and eat up Megacles' columns. Pheidippides says, how now, my father? What said the wind today? You're wandering by Olympian Zeus, you are. Strepsiades says, look there, Olympian Zeus, you blockhead, you. Come to your age and yet believe in Zeus. Pheidippides says, why, prithee, what's the joke? Strepsiades says, tis so preposterous when babes like you hold antiquated notions. But come and I'll impart a thing or two, a wrinkle making you a man indeed. But mind, don't whisper this to anyone. Pheidippides says, well, what's the matter? Strepsiades says, didn't you swear by Zeus? Pheidippides says, I did. Strepsiades says, see now, how good a thing is learning. There is no Zeus, Pheidippides. Who then? Pheidippides says, why, Vortex reigns, and he has turned out Zeus. Vortex reigns, like as in a vortex is the god now. All right. Vortex reigns, and he has turned out Zeus. Pheidippides says, oh me, what stuff? But sure that this is so. Pheidippides says, who says so, pray? The million Socrates and Sheriphon, who knows about the flea tracks. Pheidippides says, and are you come to such a pitch of madness as to put faith in brain-stuck men? Strepsiades says, oh, hush, and don't blaspheme such very dexterous men, and sapient too. Men of such frugal habits, they never shave, nor use your precious ointment, nor go to baths to clean themselves, but you have taken me for a corpse and cleaned me out. Come, make haste, do go and learn from me. Pheidippides says, how can one learn from them that is worth knowing? What can one learn from them that is worth knowing? Strepsiades says, learn, why, whatever's clever in the world, and you shall learn how gross and dense you are. But stop one moment, I'll be back directly. Strepsiades leaves, exits. Pheidippides says, oh me, what must I do with my mad father? Shall I indict him for his lunacy, or tell the undertakers of his symptoms? Strepsiades says, re-entering, now then, you see this, don't you? What do you call it? Pheidippides says, what, that? Why, a fowl? Strepsiades says, good, now then, what is this? Pheidippides says, that's a foul too. Strepsiades says, what? Both? Ridiculous. Never say that again. But mind you always call this a foul less and the other a foul. Pheidippides says, a foul less? Then these are mighty secrets you have picked up amongst those earth-born fellows. Strepsiades says, and lots besides, but everything I learn I straight forget. I am so old and stupid. Pheidippides says, and this is what you have lost your mantles for? Strepsiades says, it's very absent sometimes, 'tisn't lost. Pheidippides says, and what have you done with your shoes, you dotard you? Strepsiades says, like Pericles, all for the best, I've lost them. Come, go with me, humor me in this, and then do what you like. Ah, I remember how I used to humor you, a coaxing baby, with the first of all with which my judgeship fetched me, brought you a go-kart at the great Diasia. Pheidippides says, the time will come when you will repent of this. Strepsiades says, good boy to obey me. Hello, Socrates. Socrates comes in. Come here, I've brought this son of mine. Trouble enough, I'll warrant you. Socrates says, poor infant, not yet aware of my suspension wonders. Pheidippides says, you make a wondrous piece of ware suspended. Strepsiades says, hey, hang the lad, don't you abuse the master? Or do you abuse the master? Socrates says, and look, suspended, in what foolish fashion? He mouthed a word with pouting lips agape. How can he learn evasion of a suit? Timely citation, damaging replies. Hyperbolus, though, learnt them for a talent. Strepsiades says, oh, never fear, he's very sharp by nature, for when he was a little chap, so high, he used to build small baby houses, boats, go-karts of leather, darling little frogs. Carved from pomegranates, you can't think how nicely. So now I pray thee, teach him both your logics, the better, as you call it, and the worse, which with the worse can cause a defeat of the better, or if not both, at all events, the worse. Or if not both, at all events, the worse. So he really wants Pheidippides to learn the worse, so that way he can escape his debts. Socrates says, aye, with his own ears he shall hear them argue. I shan't be there. Strepsiades says, please remember this. Give him the knack of reasoning down all justice. Socrates exits. Okay, now we've got right logic and wrong logic come in. Right, so right logic says, come show yourself now with your confident brow to the stage if you dare. Wrong logic says, lead on where you please, I shall smash you with ease if an audience be there. Right logic. I'll just say right and wrong. So right. You'll smash me, you say, and who are you, pray? Wrong. A logic like you, right. But the worst of the two, wrong. Wrong. Yet you I can drub, whom my better they dub. Right. By what artifice taught? Wrong. By original thought. Right. Aye, truly your trade so successfully is made. Successful is made by means of these noodles of ours, I'm afraid. Wrong. I'm not noodles, but wise. Right. I'll smash you and your lies. Wrong. By what method, forsooth? Right. By speaking the truth. Wrong. Your words I will meet and entirely defeat. There never was justice or truth, I repeat. I think I'm gonna read this because it goes back and forth. Anybody can go through and find this and read along. I think it's entertaining as written, without having to say each person's name or each logic. So remember, this is a conversation between right logic and wrong logic. With the gods in the air, if justice be there, how comes it that Zeus could his father reduce, yet live with their godships unpunished and loose? Ugh, these evils come thick, I feel awfully sick, abase and quick. You're useless old drone with one foot in the grave, you're a shameless, unprincipled, dissolute knave. Hey, a rosy festoon and a vulgar buffoon, what lilies from you and a parasite too? 'Tis with gold, you don't know it, you sprinkle my head. Oh, gold is it now, but it used to be lead. But now it's a grace and a glory instead. You're a little too bold, you're a good deal too old. 'Tis through you I well know, not a stripling will go to attend to the rules which are taught in the schools, but Athens one day shall be up to the fools. How squalid your dress, yours is fine, I confess, yet of old I declare, but a pauper you were, and pass yourself off our companion to draw, as Telephus, as a Telephus, well pleased from the beggarly wallet to gnaw, and at Inanites Pandalition. There's a couple different names there. Wrong logic. Oh me, for the wisdom you've mentioned in jest. Oh me, for the folly of you and the rest, who you to destroy their children employ. Him you never shall teach, you are quite out of date. If not, he'll be lost, as he'll find to his cost, taught nothing by you but to chatter and prate. He raves, as you see, let him be, let him be. Touch him if you dare, I bid you beware. The chorus chimes in now. Forbear to wrangle and scold. Each of you show you what you taught their fathers of old. You let us know your system untried, that hearing each side from the lips of the rivals, the youth may decide to which of your schools he will go. The right logic says, this then will I do, wrong logic, and so will I too. The chorus says, and who will but in his claim to begin? Wrong logic says, if he wishes he may, I kindly give way, and out of his argument quickly I will draw facts and devices to fledge the reply, wherewith I will shoot him and smite and refute him, and at last if a word from his mouth shall be heard, my sayings like fierce savage hornets shall pierce his forehead and eyes, till in fear and distraction he yields and he dies. The chorus chimes in again. With thoughts and words and maxims pondered well, now then in confidence let both begin. Try which his rival can in speech excel, try which his perilous words war can win, which all my votaries' hopes are fondly centered in, O thou who wert born our sires to adorn, with characters blameless and fair, say on what you please, say on, and to thee your glorious nature declare. Right logic. To hear then prepare of the disciples rare, which flourished in Athens of yore, when honor and truth were in fashion with youth, and sobriety bloomed on our shore. First of all, the old rule was preserved in our school, that boys should be seen and not heard. And then to the home of the harpist would come, decorous in action and word, all the lads of one town, though the snow peppered down, in spite of all wind and all weather, and they sang an old song, and they paced it along, not shambling with thighs glued together. Or the dread shout of war, how it peals from afar, or Pallas the stormer adore, to some manly old air, all simple and bare, which their fathers had chanted before. And should anyone dare the tune to impair, and with intricate twistings to fill, such as furnaces vain and his long-winded train, perversely to quaver and trill. Many stripes would he feel in return for his zeal, as to genuine music of foe. Remember, this is all right logic. And everyone's thigh was forward and high, as they sat to be drilled in a row, so that nothing, though while indecent or vile, the eye of a stranger might meet. And then with their hand they would smooth down the sand, whenever they rose from their seat. To leave not a trace of themselves in the place for their vigilant lover to view, they never would soil their persons with oil, but were inartificial and true, nor tempered their throat to a soft mincing note, and sighs to their lovers addressed, nor laid themselves out as they strutted about to the wanton desires of the rest. Nor would anyone dare such stimulant fare as the head of the radish to wish, nor to make over bold with the food of the old, the anise, the parsley and fish, nor dainties to quaff, nor giggle and laugh, quaff, nor giggle and laugh, nor foot within foot to enfold. Wrong logic. Foff, this smells very strong of some musty old song, and chirrupers mounted in gold, and slaughter of beasts and old-fashioned feasts. Right logic. Yet these are the precepts which taught the heroes of old to be hardy and bold, and the men who at Marathon fought. But now must the lad from his boyhood be clad in a man's all-enveloping cloak, so that oft as the Panacea returns, I feel myself ready to choke when the dancers go by with their shields at their thigh, not caring for phallus a jot. And therefore, young man, choose me while you can, cast in with my method your lot. And then you shall learn the form to spurn, and from dissolute baths to abstain, and fashions impure and shameful abjure, and scorners repel with disdain. And rest from your chair if an elder be there, and respectfully give him your place, and with love and with fear your parents revere, and shrink from the brand of disgrace. And deep in your breast be the image impressed of modesty simple and true, nor resort any more to a dancing girl's door, nor glance at the harlotry crew. Lest at length be by the blow of the apple they throw from the parts of your manhood you fall, nor dare to reply when your father is nigh, nor must you'll jeff it to call. And your malice and rage at that sacred old age, which lovingly cherished your youth. Wrong logic says, yes, yes, my young friend, if to him you attend, but by Bacchus I swear of a truth, you will scarce with the stye of Hippocrates vie, as a mammy's huck known even there. Right logic. But then you'll excel in the games you love well, all blooming, athletic, and fair, not learning to pray as your idlers debate with a marvelous prickly dispute, nor dragged into court day by day to make a sport in some small disagreeable suit. But you will below to the academe go, and under the olives contend, with your chaplet of reed in a contest of speed with some excellent rival and friend. All fragrant with woodbine and peaceful content, peaceful content, and the leaf with which the lime blossoms fling, when the play whispers love to the elm in the grove, and the beautiful season of spring. If then you'll obey and do what I say, and follow with me the more excellent way, your chest shall be white, your skin will be bright, and your arms will be tight, your tongue will be light, and everything else shall be proper and right. But if you pursue what men nowadays do, you will have to begin a cold-pallid skin, arms small and chest weak, tongue practiced to speak, special laws very strong, and the symptoms all strong, which show that your life is licentious and wrong. And your mind he'll prepare so that foul to be fair, and fair to be foul you shall always declare. And you'll find yourself soon, if you listen to him, with the filth of Antimachus filled to the brim. The chorus of clouds chants, O glorious sage, with loveliest wisdom teeming, sweet on thy words does ancient virtue rest. Thrice happy they who watched thy youth's bright beaming. Thou of the vaunted genius do thy best. This man has gained applause, his wisdom stands confessed. And you with clever words and thoughts must needs your case adorn, else he will surely win the day, and you retreat with scorn. Wrong logic says, say you so, why have I been half burst? I do so long to overthrow his arguments, with arguments more strong. Am I the lesser logic? True. These schoolmen call me so, simply because I was the first of all mankind to show how old established rules and logic and laws might contradicted be, and this, as you may guess, is worth £1,000 to me. To take the feebler cause, and yet to win the disputation, and mark me now how I'll confute his boasted education. You said that always from warm baths a stripling must abstain. Why must he? On what grounds do you of these warm baths complain? Right logic says, why, it's the worst thing possible. It quite unstrings a man. Wrong logic says, hold there, I've got you around the waist, escape me if you can. And first of all the sons of Zeus, which do you think was best? Which was the manliest? Which endured more toils than all the rest? Right logic says, well, I suppose Heracles was the bravest and most bold. Wrong logic said, in all the baths of Heracles, so wonderfully cold. Aha, you blame warm baths, I think. Right logic says, this is what they say. This is the stuff our precious youths are chattering all the day. This is what makes them haunt the baths and shun the manlier games. Wrong logic says, well then, we'll take the forum next. I'll praise it and he blames. But if it was so bad, do you think old Homer would have made Nestor and all his worthies ply a real forensic trade? Well, then he says a stripling's tongue should always idle be. I say it should be used, of course, so there we disagree. And next he says you must be chaste, a most preposterous plan. Come, tell me, did you ever know one single blessed man gain the least good by chastity? Come, prove I'm wrong, make haste. Right logic says, yes, many. Peleus gained a sword by being chaste. Wrong logic says, a sword indeed, a wondrous meed the unlucky fool obtained. Hyperbolus the lampmaker hath many a talent gained by knavish tricks which I have taught, but not a sword, no. Right logic says, then Peleus did to his chaste life the bed of Thetis owe. Wrong logic says, and then she cut and ran away, for nothing so engages a woman's heart as forward in warmth, old shred of those dark ages. For take this chastity, young man, sift it inside and out, count all the pleasures, all the joys it bids you live without. No kind of dames, no kind of games, no laughing, feasting, drinking, while life itself is little worth without these joys I'm thinking. Well, I must notice now the wants by nature self-implanted. You love, seduce, you can't help that. You're caught, convicted, granted. You're done for, you can't say one word. While if you follow me, indulge your genius, laugh and quaff, hold nothing base to be, why, if you're in adultery caught, your pleas will still be ample. You've done no wrong, you'll say, and then bring Zeus as your example. He fell before the wondrous powers by love and beauty wielded. And how can you, the mortal, stand where he, the immortals, yielded? Right logic says, aye, but suppose in spite of all, he must be wedged and sanded. Won't he be probed, or else can you prevent it? Now be candid. Wrong logic says, and what's the damage if it should be so? What's the damage if it should be so? Right logic says, what greater damage can the young man know? Wrong logic says, what will you do if this dispute I win? Right logic says, I'll be forever silent. Wrong logic says, good begin. The counselor, from whence comes he? Right logic says, from probed adulterers. Wrong logic says, I agree. The tragic poets, whence are they? Wrong logic says, from probed adulterers. Wrong logic says, so I say. The orators, what class of men? All probed adulterers. Right again. You feel your error, I'll engage, but look once more around the stage. Survey the audience, which they be, probed or not probed. Right logic says, I see. Wrong logic says, well, give your verdict. Right logic says, it must go for probed adulterers, him I know, and him the probed are most. Wrong logic says, how stand we then? Right logic says, I own I've lost. O Syneades, take my robe. Your words have won, to you I run. To live and die with glory's probe. The two logics go out and enter Socrates from the frontisterion and Strepsiades from his own house to see how his son's education has been progressing. During the interval of the chorus, that education is supposed to be completed. So during the interval of the chorus, the education is supposed to be completed. Excellent. Ooh. Okay. Socrates says, well, what do you want? To take away your son? To take away your son at once, or shall I teach him how to speak? Strepsiades says, teach him and flog him, and be sure you well. Sharpen his mother wit, grind the one edge fit for my little lawsuits and the other. Why make that serve for more important matters? Socrates says, oh, never fear, he'll make a splendid sophist. Strepsiades says, well, I hope he'll be a poor pale rascal. The chorus says, go, Badinus, the thought is strong. You will repent of this ere long. Now we wish to tell the judges all the blessings they shall gain, if, as justice plainly warrants, we the worthy prize obtain. First, whenever in season you would fain your fields renew, all the world shall wait expectant till we've poured our rain on you. Then of all your crops and vineyards, we will take the utmost care, so that neither drought oppress them nor the heavy rain impair. But if any one amongst you dare to treat our claims with scorn, mortal he, the clouds immortal, better had he ne'er been born. He from his estate shall gather neither corn nor oil nor wine, for whenever blossoms sparkle on the olive or the vine, they shall all at once be blighted. We will ply our slings so true, and if ever we behold him building up his mansions new, with our tight and nipping hailstones, we will all his tiles destroy. But if he his friends or kinsfolk would a marriage feast enjoy, all night long will pour in torrents, so perchance he'll rather pray to endure the drought of Egypt than decide amiss today. I want to make sure. Cool. Then decide amiss today. Strepsiades says, the fifth, the fourth, the third, and then the second, and then that day which more than all the rest I loathe and shrink from and abominate. Then comes at once that hateful old and new day, and every single blessed dun has sworn he'll stake his gage and ruin and destroy me. And when I make a modest small request, oh, my good friend, part don't exact at present, and part defer and part remit. They swear so they shall never touch it and abuse me as a rank swindler, threatening me with actions. Now let them bring their actions. Who's afraid? Not I, if these have taught my son to speak. But here's the door. I'll knock and soon find out. Boy, ho there, boy. Socrates says, I clasped Strepsiades. Strepsiades says, and I clasp you. But take this meal back first. 'Tis meet and right to glorify one's tutors. But tell me, has my son yet learnt that second logic which he saw just now? Socrates says, he has. Strepsiades says, hurrah, great sovereign knavery. Socrates says, you may escape whatever suit you please. Strepsiades says, what, if I borrowed before witnesses? Socrates says, before 1,000, and the more the merrier. Strepsiades says, then shall my song be loud and deep. Weep, oboe weighers, weep, 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 ye and your principles and compound interests, for ye shall never pester me again. Such a son I have bred. He is within this door, born to inspire my foemen with dread, born his old father's house to restore. Keen and polished of tongue he my champion and guard shall be. He will set his old father free. Run you and call him forth to me. O my child, O my sweet, come out, and I entreat. 'Tis the voice of your sire. Socrates says, here's the man you desire. Strepsiades says, joy, joy of my heart. Socrates says, take your son and depart. Oh come, my son. Oh dear, oh joy to see your beautiful complexion. Now you have aspect negative and disputative in our native query shines forth there. What do you say? You've the truth face, which rogues but on and of injured innocence, and have regular attic look about you. So now you save me, for 'twas you undid me. Pheidippides. Huh. Pheidippides. Sorry, Dippy. Streppy and Dippy. That's what I heard from somebody else today. Streppy and Dippy. Dippy says, what is it that ailed you? Streppy says, why, the old and new day. Dippy says, and is there such a day as old and new? Streppy says, yes, that's the day they mean to stake their gauges. Dippy says, they'll lose them if they stake them. What do you think? That one day can be 2 days, both together? Streppy says, why, can't it be so? Dippy says, surely not, or else a woman might at once be old and young. Still, the law says so. Dippy says, true, but I believe they don't quite understand it. Streppy says, you explain it. Dippy says, Solon had a democratic turn. Streppy says, well, but that's nothing to the old and new. Dippy says, hence then he fixed that summonses be issued for these 2 days, the old one and the new one, so that the gauge be staked on the new month. Streppy says, what made him add the old then? Dippy says, I will tell you. He wished the litigants to meet on that day and comprise their quarrels. If they could not, then he let them fight it out on the new month. Streppy says, why then do magistrates receive the stakes on the old and new instead of the new month? Dippy says, well, I believe they act like the foretasters. They wish to bag the gauge as soon as possible, and thus they gain a whole day's foretaste of it. Streppy says, aha, poor dupes, why sit ye mooning there? Game for us artful dodgers, you dull stones, you ciphers, lambskins, butts piled up together. Oh, my success inspire me, and I'll sing glad eulogies on me and thee, my son. Man, my most blessed, most divine, what a wondrous wit is thine, what a son to grace thy line, friends and neighbors day by day, thus will say. When with envious eyes my suits they see you win, but first I'll feast you, so come in, my son, come in. Enter Passius and his witness. Passius says, what, must a man lose his own property? Witnesses, I suppose, N-O. I'm not sure what N-O stands for. Suppose it's the witnesses or a witness. Passius, a witness. Okay. Here it is. Passius, what? Must a man lose his own property? Witness, never, never. Better have refused with a bold face than be so plagued as this. See to get paid my own just debts. I'm forced to drag you to bear witness, and what's worse, I needs must quarrel with my townsman here. Well, I won't shame my country. While I live, I'll go to law. I'll summon him. Strepsiades says, hello. Passius says, to the next old and new. So Passius is the creditor who is owed money by Strepsiades. Strepi says, bear witness all. He named 2 days. You'll summon me. What for? Passius says, the 50 pounds I lent you when you bought that iron gray. Strep says, just listen to the fellow. The whole world knows that I detest all horses. Passius says, I swear you swore by all the gods to pay me. Strepi says, well, now I swear I won't. Dippy has learnt since then the unanswerable logic. Passius says, and will you therefore shirk my just demand? Strep says, of course I will. Else why should he have learnt it? Passius says, and will you dare forswear it by the gods? The gods indeed. What gods? Poseidon, Hermes, Zeus? By Zeus I would, though I gave 2 pence halfpenny for the privilege. Passius says, oh, then confound you for the shameless rogue. Strep says, hello, this butt should be rubbed down with the salt. Passius says, zounds, you deride me. Strepi says, why, 'twill hold 4 gallons. You escape me not by mighty Zeus and all the gods. Strepi says, I wonderfully like the gods, and oath by Zeus is sports and knowing ones. Passius says, sooner or later you will repent of this. Come, do you mean to pay your debts or don't you? Tell me and I'll be off. Strepi says, now do have patience. I'll give you a clear answer in the moment. Passius says, what do you think he'll do? The witness says, I think he'll pay you. Strepsiades says, where is that horrid done? Oh, here, now tell me, what do you call this? Passius says, what I call that? A trough. Strepi says, heavens, what a fool! And do you want your money? I'd never pay 1 penny to a fellow who calls my trough-less trough. So there's your answer. Passius says, then you won't pay me? Strepi says, no, not if I know it. Come put your best foot forward and be off. March off, I say, this instant. Passius says, may I die if I don't go at once and stake my gauge. He exits. Strepsiades says, no, don't. The 50 pounds are lost enough, and really, on my word, I would not wish you to lose this too, just for one silly blunder. Enter Aminius. Aminius. Ah, me. Oh. Strepsiades says, hello, who's that making this horrible noise? Not one of Carcinus' sniveling gods. Aminius says, who cares to know what I am, what imports it? An ill-starred man. Strepsiades says, then keep it to yourself. Aminius says, O heavy fate, O fortune, thou hast broken my chariot wheels. Thou hast undone me, Pallas. Strepsiades says, how has Topolamus been at you, man? Aminius says, jeer me not, friend, but tell your worthy son to pay back the money which I lent him. I'm in a bad way, and the times are pressing. Strepsiades says, what money do you mean? Aminius says, why, what he borrowed. Strepsiades says, you are in a bad way, I really think. Aminius says, driving my 4-wheel, I fell by Zeus. Strepsiades says, you rave as if you've fallen times out of mind. Aminius says, I rave? How so? I only claim my own. You can't quite be right, surely. Aminius says, why? What mean you? Strepsiades says, I shrewdly guess your brain's deceived to shake. Aminius says, I shrewdly guess you'll receive a summons if you don't pay my money. Strepsiades says, well then tell me, which theory do you side with? That the rain falls fresh each time, or that the sun draws back the same old rain and sends it down again? Aminius says, I'm very sure I neither know nor care. Strepsiades, nor not care? Good heavens, and what do you claim your money, so enlightened in the laws of nature? Aminius says, if you're hard up, then pay me back in the interest at least. Or pay me back the interest at least. Strepsiades says, interest? What kind of beast is that? Aminius says, what else then, but day by day and month by month, larger and larger still the silver grows as time sweeps by. Strepsiades says, finely and nobly said. What then, think you the sea is larger now than 'twas last year? Aminius says, no, surely 'tis no larger. It is not right, it should be. Strepsiades says, and do you then, insatiable grasper, when the sea, receiving all these rivers, grows no larger, do you desire your silver to grow larger? Come now, you prosecute your journey off. Here, fetch the whip. Aminius says, bear witness, I appeal. Strepsiades says, be off. What, won't you? Gee up, Sigma Brand. Aminius says, I say, a clear assault. Strepsiades says, you won't be off? I'll stimulate you. Zeus, I'll goad your haunches. Aminius leaves. Exits. Aha, you run. I thought I'd stir you up. You and your phaetons and wheels and all. He exits. The chorus of clouds comes in. What a thing it is to long for matters which are wrong. For you see how this old man is seeking, if he can, his creditor's trepan, and I confidently say that he will this very day such a blow amid his prosperous cheats receive, that he will deeply, deeply grieve. For I think that he has won what he wanted for his son, and the lad has learned the way. All justice to gainsay, be it what or where it may, that he'll trump up any tale, right or wrong, and so prevail. This I know, yea, and perchance the time will come when he shall wish his son were dumb. Enter Strepsiades and Pheidippides. Strepi says, oh, help, murder, oh, help, oh, neighbors, kinsfolk, townsmen, help one and all against this base assault. My cheek, my head, oh, luckless me. Wretch, do you strike your father? Dippy says, yes, papa. Strepi says, see how he owns he struck me. Dippy says, to be sure. Strepi says, scoundrel, and parricide, and housebreaker. Dippy says, thank you. Go on, please do go on. I am quite delighted to be called such names. Strepi says, oh, probed adulterer. Dippy says, roses from your lips. Strike you your father? Oh dear, yes. What's more, I'll prove I struck you justly. Strepi says, struck me justly? Villain, how can you strike a father justly? Dippy says, yes, and I'll demonstrate it, if you please. Strepi says, demonstrate this? Dippy says, oh yes, quite easily. Come, take your choice. Which logic do you choose? Which what? Logic, the better or the worse. Strepi says, then, in very truth, I've had you taught to reason down all justice. If you think you can prove this, that is just and right, that fathers should be beaten by their sons. Dippy says, well, I think I'll prove it if you'll listen, so that even you won't have one word to answer. Strepi says, come, I should like to hear what you've to say. The chorus says, 'tis yours, old man, some method to contrive this fight to win. He would not without arms wherewith to strive, so bold have been. He knows, be sure, we're on to trust. His eager bearing proves he must. So come and tell us from what cause the sad dispute began. Come tell us how it first arose. Do tell us if you can. So you've got Pheidippides, Dippy, that's what I'll call him, beating up his father, Strepi, and defending himself using the logic which he learned at his father's request. Very ironic, the irony. Okay, Strepi says, well, from the very first I will the whole contention show. 'Twas when I went into the house to feast him, as you know. I bade him bring his lyre and sing, the supper to adorn, some lay of old Simonides, as how the ram was shorn. But he replied to sing at meals was coarse and obsolete, like some old beldam humming airs, the while she grounds her wheat. Pheidippides says, and should you not be thrashed who told your son from food abstaining to sing as though you were, forsooth, Socrates entertaining? Strepi says, you hear him. So he said just now, or ere high words began, and next he calls Simonides a very sorry man. And when I heard him, I could scarce my rising wrath command, yet so I did, and him I bid take myrtle in his hand, and chant some lines from Aeschylus, but he replied with ire, believe me, I am not one of those who Aeschylus admire. That rough, unpolished, turgid bard, that mouther of bombast, when he said this, my heart began to heave extremely fast. Yet still I keep my passion down, and said, then prithee you, sing one of those newfangled songs which modern striplings do. And he began the shameful tale Euripides has told, how a brother and a sister lived incestuous lives of old. Then I could no more restrain, but first I must confess, with strong abuse I loaded him, and so as you may guess, we stormed and bandied threat for threat, till out at last he flew, and smashed and thrashed and thumped and bumped, and bruised me black and blue. Pheidippides says, and rightly too, who coolly dared Euripides to blame, most sapient bard. Strepsiades says, most sapient bard, you and what's your fitting name? But he'll be but he'll pummel me again. Pheidippides says, he will, and justly too. Strepsiades says, what, justly, heartless villain? When 'twas I who nurtured you, I knew your little lisping ways, how soon you'd hardly think. If you cried brie, I guessed your wants, and used to give you drink. If you said, Mom, I fetched you bread with font discernment true, and you could hardly say, Caca, when through the door I flew, and held you out at full arm's length, your little needs to do. But now when I was crying, that I with pain was dying, you brute, you would not tarry me out of doors to carry, but choking with despair, I've been and done it there. So here we have the chorus of clouds. Sure, all young hearts all are palpitating now to hear him plead, since if those lips with artful words avow the daring deed, and once a favoring verdict win, a fig for every old man's skin, O thou who rakest up new thoughts with daring hands profane. Try all you can, ingenious man, that verdict to obtain. Pheidippides says, how sweet it is these novel arts, these clever words to know, and have a power established rules and laws to overthrow. Why, in old times when horses were my sole delight, 'twas wonder if I could say a dozen words without some awful blunder. But now that he has made me quit that reckless mode of living, and I have been to subtle thoughts my whole attention giving, I hope to prove by logic strict 'tis right to beat my father. Strepsiades says, oh, buy your horse's back by Zeus, since I would 10 times rather have to support a four in hand, so I be struck no more. Pheidippides says, peace, I will now resume the thread, where I broke off before, and first I ask, when I was young, did you not strike me then? Strepsiades says, yes, yea, for I loved and cherished you. Pheidippides says, well, solve me this again. Is it not just that I, your son, should cherish you alike, and strike you, since, as you observe, to cherish means to strike? What, must my body needs be scourged, and pounded black and blue, and yours be scatheless? Was I not as much freeborn as you? Children are whipped, and shall be sires be whipped? Oh, children are whipped, and shall not sires be whipped? Perhaps you'll urge that children's minds alone are taught by blows. Well, age is second childhood then, that everybody knows, and as by old experience age should guide its steps more clearly, so when they err, they surely should be punished more severely. And here we've got Socrates. When they err, they surely should be punished more severely. Strepsiades. Oh, sorry, that's not Socrates. So when they err, they surely should be punished more severely. Socrates is not on the stage. Strepsiades says, but law goes everywhere for me, deny it if you can. Pheidippides says, well, was not he who made the law a man, a mortal man, as you or I, who in old times, and think you that to you or me the same is not allowed, to change it so that sons by blows should keep their fathers steady. Still, we'll be liberal in blows, which we've received already. We will forget, we'll have no ex post facto legislation. Look at the gamecocks, look at all the animal creation. Do they not beat their parents? I say then that in fact they are as we, except that they no special laws enact. Strepsiades says, why don't you then, if always where the gamecock leads you follow, ascend your perch to roost at night and dirt in order swallow? Pheidippides says, the case is different there, old man, as Socrates would see. Strepsiades says, well, then you'll blame yourself at last if you keep striking me. Pheidippides says, how so? Strepsiades says, well, if it's right for me to punish you, my son, you can if you have got one, yours. Pheidippides says, aye, but suppose I've none, then having gold me, you will die, while I've been flogged in vain. Strepsiades says, good friends, I really think he has some reason to complain. I must concede he has put the case in quite a novel light. I really think we should be flogged unless we act right. Pheidippides says, look to the fresh idea then. Strepsiades says, he'll be the death I vow. He'll be my death I vow. Pheidippides says, yet then perhaps you will not grudge even what you suffer now. Strepsiades says, how? Will you make me like the blows which I've received today? Pheidippides says, yes, for I'll beat my mother too. Strepsiades says, what? What is that you say? Why, this Worse than all. Dippy says, but what? If as I proved the other, by the same logic I can prove, 'tis right to beat my mother. Streppy says, aye, what indeed? If this you plead, if this you think to win, why then for all I care you may to the accursed pit convey yourself with all your learning new, your master and your logic too, and tumble headlong in. O clouds, oh, all this to you, why did I let you manage my affairs? The chorus of clouds says, nay, nay, old man, you owe it to yourself. Why didst thou turn to wicked practices? Streppy says, but ye should have asked me that before and not have spurred a poor old fool to evil. The chorus says, such is our plan. We find a man on evil thoughts intent, guide him along to shame and wrong, and then leave him to repent. Streppy says, hard words, alas, yet not more hard than just. It was not right unfairly to keep back the money that I borrowed. Come, my darling, come and destroy that filthy Sheriffon and Socrates, for they have deceived us both. Dippy says, no, I will lift no hand against my tutors. Streppy says, yes, do, come, reverence paternal Zeus. Dippy says, look there, paternal Zeus, what an old fool. Is there a Zeus? Streppy says, there is. Dippy says, there is no Zeus. Young Vortex reigns, and he has turned out Zeus. Streppy says, no vortex reigns. That was my foolish thought. I'll through this vortex here. Fool that I was to think a piece of earthenware a god. Dippy says, well, rave away, talk nonsense to yourself, and leaves. Dippy leaves. Streppy says, oh, fool, how mad I must have been to cast away the gods for Socrates. Yet Hermes, gracious Hermes, be not angry, nor crush me utterly, but look with mercy on faults to which his idle talk hath led me, and lend thy counsel. Tell me, had I better plague them with lawsuits, or how else annoy them? He affects to listen like this. To listen to Hermes, I suppose. Good, your advice is good. I'll have no lawsuits. I'll go out once to set their house on fire. That the prating rascals, here, Xanthias, quick here, bring your ladder and your pitchfork. Climb to the roof of their vile thinking house. Dig at their tiles, dig stoutly, and thou lovest me. Tumble the very house about their ears, and someone fetch me here a lighted torch, and I'll soon see if, boasters as they are, they won't repent of what they've done to me. So now he's lighting the learning cottage, the learning house, the learning building down. He's planning to burn it down. So there's a first student within saying, oh dear, oh dear. Strepsiades says, now, my torch, send out a lusty flame. The student within, man, why are you there? Or what are you at there? What are you at there? That's the question. Strepsiades says, what am I at? I'll tell you. I'm splitting straws with your house rafters here. There's a second student within. Oh me, who's been and set our house on fire? Strepsiades says, who was it, think you, that you stole the cloak from? Third student says within, oh, murder. Strepsiades says, that's the very thing. Unless this pick prove traitor to my hopes, or I fall down and break my blessed neck. That's the very thing. Unless this pick prove traitor to my hopes, or I fall down and break my blessed neck. Socrates at the window. Hello, what are you at up on our roof? Strepsiades says, I walk on air and contemplate the sun. That's a quote of Socrates from earlier. Beautiful. I walk on air and contemplate the sun. Socrates says, oh, I shall suffocate. Oh dear. Sheriffon, and I, poor devil, will be burnt to death. Strepsiades says, for with what aim did ye insult the gods and pry around the dwellings of the moon? Strike, smite them, spare them not, for many reasons, but most because they have blasphemed the gods. The chorus of clouds says, lead out of the way, for I think we may say we have acted our part very fairly today. And that's the end of The Clouds by Aristophanes. Next, out of the same volume from the Great Conversations, let's take a look at my list. Oh, here it is, my list. So I just read Clouds, and the next one that I will have is Lysistrata, also by Aristophanes. So far I've read Plato's Apology and Crito, two separate works. Then Aristophanes' Clouds I've read. This one was about 18 pages, it looks like. The next one is 16 pages. So you can expect probably another two-part one. This is going to be Lysistrata. I haven't done any research into Lysistrata yet, so I have no idea what it's about. But Clouds is very interesting. So it's a play where we've got Socrates, Pheidippides, Strepsiades. I'm gonna make sure I'm pronouncing that right. Strepsiades. It just doesn't feel right when I say it. Even though I'm not entirely sure. 488 is the page. Strepsiades. I think that's right. And then Pheidippides. And then we had a servant of Strepsiades, the student of Socrates. Socrates, right logic, wrong logic, Passius, Aminius. We had a witness, the Sheriphon, and the Chorus of Clouds. I'm still not sure who the Sheriphon was. Let me see. I'll look that up real quick. So he's a friend and follower of Socrates. So Sheriphon would have been in the learning house with Socrates. Sheriphon, oh, this may be one of the only things that he says. And I, poor devil, shall be burnt to death by bad logic. Wow. Okay, so maybe Sheriphon is representing, and I think I can look up the pronunciation. I ended up looking up all these pronunciations. Some of these videos are so long. Let's see. Caraphon. Let's say it again. Caraphon. Okay. So Caraphon is a follower of Socrates based on that quick Google search and friend. So here at the end, and I, poor devil, shall be burnt to death. So maybe that's a foreshadowing to what might happen to all of us if if wrong logic is used, that will end all the people who want to be like Socrates, perhaps. So very thought-provoking, of course. I'm excited to keep reading through this first year from the Great Conversations set from Britannica. I don't anticipate that hundreds of thousands of people are going to watch this video. I'd be happy if like a couple dozen watched this ever and got back to me about some of my interpretations or just what I read. And I'm sure I'll be a completely different person by the time I end. So, there's a 10-year reading plan, and I've only read like 3 of the books. I'm still in the second part out of 18 parts for the first year. So after this next one, I will be 1/9 of the way through the first year. So doing this video series helps me keep motivated. It gives me a reason to pull out the book and think about it a little bit deeper, because I like doing this little thing at the end where I just contemplate it for a second. I don't anticipate that I will remember all of this, but at least I've seen it before and I've read it before. And so whenever I do read a summary again, I can remember how it felt to read it. And having recorded those moments out loud for me could provide a reference. And I'm going to look back at this and I'm going to be like, wow, that guy was just like the stupidest. He didn't even know how to pronounce Strepsiades or Socrates, like mispronouncing, didn't understand certain words that he was saying. So maybe as I learn more down the line, I'll gain some understanding. I'll end up understanding what was happening a little bit better. So, cool. Thank you for listening. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon. It's actually Labor Day right now, 2020. So, all right. Bye.